really don't care what happens to us at all. I don't care. Like, everybody they tiptoe around with this social media, but what y'all don't get is that it be real consequence for y'all little flexes, y'all quick flexes for $300 that you need. It be consequence.
Nobody expected it to go this far, a shouting match that ended with Teyana crumpled on the ground, barely conscious. 1 second she was standing there, hands out, voice shaking as she tried to calm the storm that had been building for months. The next, she was down in the grass, her breath shallow while the two men she loved and feared screamed over her like she wasn't even there. Neighbors say they saw shadows moving behind the fence, heard glass smash, then sirens cutting through the night like a blade through paper. By the time police lights bounced off the walls of that neat backyard, it was too late to hide the truth. The lies that had held everything together cracked open under the weight of fists, shouts, and secrets too heavy to carry. Stick with me, because what happened after those sirens wailed left everyone asking the same question. Who's really to blame for the night Teyana's world fell apart in her own backyard? It was meant to be quiet, a half-peace talk, half goodbye, a last attempt at calm between people who pretended they still had love to give. Iman stood by the grill like he owned the yard, shoulders tense, eyes locked on Aaron the moment he stepped through the gate. Aaron looked back with that tight smile people call polite but everyone knows hides poison. A few friends hovered near the porch, holding drinks they didn't want, whispering that this was a bad idea the second the two men locked eyes. It only took one snide comment about money, about who really paid the bills, who really showed up when the cameras were gone, for the air to snap. Teyana stepped forward, hands up like a referee at a fight she'd already lost 1,000 times. She told them to breathe, to think of the kids, to remember the neighbors were listening. But anger makes people deaf. Aaron threw a line about loyalty, Iman fired back about betrayal, and then threats started dripping off every word. Teyana's voice cracked as she begged them to look at her, just her, but rage doesn't have eyes for the person it's destroying. One shove, a scream, a crash near the fence, then Teyana's knees gave out, and she hit the ground as if all that anger sucked the life straight out of her. The moment her body hit the grass, the shouting didn't stop, not at first. Someone near the porch screamed for someone else to call 911, hands fumbling for a phone while another friend knelt beside her, trying to keep her awake. Iman's voice boomed through the night, blaming Aaron for pushing too far, for poisoning Teyana with lies she wasn't strong enough to carry. Aaron shot back that he'd done nothing but tell the truth, that Iman's suffocating grip made her break before he ever said a word. Neighbors pressed their faces to dark windows, watching the chaos unfold while glass crunched under shoes in the backyard. When the first squad car pulled up at the curb, party guests scattered like roaches under a porch light. Nobody wanted to explain to a cop why two grown men were screaming over a woman who couldn't even stand. Officers didn't wait for answers. They jumped the fence when the doorbell went ignored, pushing through stunned bystanders to find Teyana's pale face in the grass. EMTs hustled behind them, sliding a stretcher under her as her eyelids flickered open then shut again. And when they lifted her away, the backyard fell into a hush, but only for a heartbeat. Then the blame started flying like fists that never landed. Iman pointed a shaking finger at Aaron, shouting about secrets, betrayal, the lies that crawled through their house like termites. Aaron barked right back, pacing tight circles as cops stepped in to keep them apart. He called Iman a control freak, a puppet master who broke Teyana down piece by piece until she had nothing left to hold her up. Friends pressed hands to chests, trying to calm pounding hearts as they realized no one could spin this into a clean story anymore. Grainy phone clips caught flashes of the mess, Aaron's eyes wide, Iman's jaw clenched, an officer's hand resting on his holster just in case. Some neighbors whispered that maybe both men deserved to be cuffed that night. Others swore they'd seen enough to know who really snapped. But when the last cruiser rolled away and the last guest slipped through the side gate, only one thing was certain. Teyana paid the price for a fight that wasn't hers to fight. The next morning, the world woke up to headlines that didn't match the official statements. Teyana's people pushed out a neat line about stress-related exhaustion, but no one who heard the glass smash and the voices crack believed that lie for a second. Insiders whispered she hadn't really slept in weeks, that her mind stayed up at night replaying the same argument over and over. Some say she'd been planning her exit, not from her house but from the tug-of-war that left her body in that grass. Friends who love her posted quotes about loyalty, about wolves in sheep's clothing, about new beginnings. But behind closed doors, sides were forming like cracks in old pavement. Some still held Iman up like a king who'd lost control for a second too long. Others stood behind Aaron, saying he was the only one brave enough to tell her the truth. But the only voice that mattered was silent, stretched out under hospital lights with tubes that beeped like a broken clock counting down to the moment she'd finally speak for herself. While she slept, still and silent beneath crisp hospital sheets, the world outside did what it always does. It pulled the covers off every secret it could find. While her heartbeat ticked steady under a monitor's blinking light, the internet tore through the night like a storm. By sunrise, the backyard that had once been a place for barbecues and birthday parties had become the most watched scene on every feed. Shaky videos, barely 30 seconds long, were looped, slowed, zoomed in, analyzed frame by frame. Flashing red and blue lights lit up the wooden fence that used to keep outsiders out. Now, that fence might as well have been made of glass. In those clips, Iman's face was caught in a kind of expression no one had ever seen before. Not rage, not pride, but fear. It hung on his jaw, heavy and unfamiliar, like he knew something had gone too far. The kind of look that doesn't belong to a man in control, but to someone watching the ground crumble under him. In the same breath, Aaron stood across from him, mouth open mid-sentence, jabbing a finger toward nothing and everything. He looked like a man trying to win a fight with shadows, trying to strike something invisible. Maybe guilt, maybe regret, maybe just the weight of being there at all. And then came the edits. Meme pages moved faster than truth ever could. Iman's stunned silence was turned into captions that mocked. Aaron's finger became a symbol, pasted into images of courtroom dramas, music videos, and political debates. People laughed, not because it was funny, but because pain, when it's not your own, is easy to turn into content. And between the posts, the old clips came crawling back. Teyana on talk shows, in interviews, smiling just enough to pass. Her voice soft when she talked about balance, about love, about loyalty. Her eyes darting sideways when asked about peace. Suddenly, all those moments were read as signs, foreshadowing of a collapse that had been quietly building for years. The fandom split like tectonic plates. Hashtags became weapons. One side called her a strategist, a woman playing chess in a game everyone else thought was checkers. They said the fainting wasn't weakness, it was timing. A way to escape, to reset, to come back with the power in her hands. The other side wasn't so sure. They said her body simply gave up. That no human can survive that much pressure without something snapping. That it wasn't an act, it was surrender. A shutdown. A woman drained dry by a war no one could stop, not even her. Behind the scenes, PR teams scrambled to control a narrative that had already taken off without them. They drafted statements, scrubbed timelines, contacted gossip pages, tried to patch holes in a ship that was already halfway underwater. But nothing worked. No matter how fast they ran, the story was moving faster. And this time, no one believed a spin. Behind closed doors and beyond the reach of DMs and edits, the real battle kept crawling forward. Police were deep into witness statements, sorting out who shoved who raised their voice first, who crossed the line. Iman's legal camp whispered about trespassing, about Aaron showing up without permission, about provocation. They painted him as the fire starter. Aaron's side fired back, claiming he was invited, that Iman's temper lit the fuse, that all he did was protect a woman who deserved more than either of them ever gave. Whispers turned to rumors, and rumors turned into threats. Somewhere, phones held secrets. Friends spoke in low voices about screenshots no one had seen, about voice notes that could twist the story again, about receipts with timestamps and truth sharp enough to tear reputations to pieces. People closest to Teyana, the ones who hadn't spoken publicly at all, hinted that she was done. Done being fought over. Done being reduced to a battleground. Done playing a part in a show she didn't write. And now, everything hangs in the balance. The world waits, the way it does when something is about to crack. All eyes are on her. Not the men shouting across backyards. Not the lawyers typing press statements. Her. Everyone knows the next move is hers to make. Whether it's a sentence, a silence, or a full unraveling of everything hidden behind her name. She doesn't even have to speak. She just has to wake up, because the second she does, someone's kingdom is going to burn. Whether she lights the match herself or simply lets the fire take its course is the only secret left. And everyone, from fans to haters to those two men still trying to own the story, is holding their breath to find out what she'll choose. So here's the question no lawyer, neighbor, or insider can answer yet. Whose side are you on? Iman's, the king brought low by his own pride? Aaron's, the snake or the savior, depending on which blurry clip you trust? Or Teyana's, the woman who held them both up until they pulled her down in the dirt behind her own fence? Drop your wildest theory in the comments. Who's hiding the ugliest secret? Who's faking the tears? And who's about to flip this story on its head the second she opens her eyes? If you want every leak, every shaky clip, every line that drips out of court when the real war starts, stay right here. Because this wasn't just a fainting spell, it was a signal that the lies are too heavy to hold up any longer. And when Teyana stands again, when she finally breathes out the truth she's kept trapped behind her teeth for too long, someone's story will end in front of us all, live, one messy secret at a time.